Hello and welcome to this demonstrational video on the Burstner Lyseo I726. So we'll run around the outside of the vehicle first, showing you the lockers etc on the outside, and then we'll move on to the inside. So being an A-class, the bonnet catch is in roughly the same place as it would be on a normal coach built motorhome, which is just here. So pull that lever. That's the bonnet catch. While we're here, the blinds are dealt with like so, with a magnetic strip, as you can see on the front there. So that's how the side blind is dealt with. Very similar as to on that side, but the press studded. So you remove those press studs, slide that blind across, and it attaches onto that panel just there. The side blinds for the windscreen are a very similar operation. So it's these press studded catches here that are removed to draw this magnetic strip across here with a corresponding one on the other side, and then they'll join together. Exactly the same on this small side window here, exactly the same situation. So that's with the bonnet catch release there. So this motorhome is still currently being worked on. We're just fitting a head unit for the customer in the double din unit there. So the floor panels missing there for the battery. But while we're here, I'll just show you the charger unit and where that is housed. So that's the charger unit under the passenger's seat, and on the front of that there's a bank of fuses, which is the 12-volt circuit. So in the instruction manual, my finger's just pointing to those there. So in the instruction manual, there'll be an indication to tell you which fuse is which. So that's the charger unit, and that's where it's housed, and it also incorporates the 12-volt fuses. Being an A-class, obviously it's had slight adaptations to the controls. So you've got your window controls just there. Okay, so to lift the bonnet, you just lift it in the centre just above the Burstner badge, and the bonnet stay is in the middle just here. Underneath here, it is exactly the same engine layout as the standard coach built would be. So you've got washer fluid, brake fluid, coolant, oil fill, dipstick. If you ever need to jump start these vehicles, on the standard coach built model, the positive tab is just underneath this lift up cover here. So you sometimes need a key for this, so like so, and that's the positive tab. So your red cable goes onto that metal, this here. So that's if you ever need to jump start the vehicle or jump start another vehicle from it. There is a negative terminal, so if you put your negative terminal or your black cable onto that rounded tab just there. Okay, from the front then, I'm going to work my way around in a clockwise direction. The first locker we come to is the diesel fuel. Underneath that we have the AdBlue additive. You need your key, engine key, to get into your diesel fuel, and no key is required for the AdBlue additive. The AdBlue, when that becomes low, it'll come up on the dash to tell you that it requires filling. Don't let that go totally empty. It'll go, or you'll send the vehicle into limp home mode, which obviously nobody wants. In this locker here, which is another lockable locker, we have the freshwater tank. So this is how you fill your freshwater tank via this nozzle here. And to prevent spillages into this locker, you put that in place. Obviously you can see how that would prevent spillages into the locker here. So to fill it, you just put a hose pipe into there, fill it until it pours out. This is an access point if you need to clean the tank. Obviously if you're doing that, then make sure that this is properly sealed when you replace it, otherwise you'll get water leakage around this O-ring here. To drain this water tank down, it's this wheel on top of the tank. It's very important that you drain this down. If it's not being used in winter and in freezing conditions, you're in danger of water freezing inside the tank, and it can cause a lot of expensive damage. So to do that, this tap on the top here is your drainage tap. You'll see from this sticker indicates here, the tank holds 120 litres. You can drain it down to 20 litres, which is sort of transit carriage. So you're taking just 20 litres of water to allow you to calculate your payload more accurately. So fully clockwise, and just do this finger tight. Don't over tighten it, you'll damage the thread. So it'll retain all the water in the tank if that's clockwise, finger tight. To drain it down to 20 litres, you turn it anti-clockwise until you feel it click. Then you know that it's down to 20 litres. To further drain it down fully, then just turn it maybe 2 or 3 turns until you feel it tighten, and that will completely drain it down. Okay, so in the usable position, it's all the way finger tight until you feel the thread, and then you know it's ready for use, all the way around until it's finger tight on drain mode. In here, there is a thermostatic valve for the boiler. Okay, so you've got your freshwater tank, you've got a separate tank of water, which is the boiler, and that has a thermostatic safety valve on it. Okay, so to drain that down, this little diamond shaped thing here on the top, if it's pointing in that direction, it's open. If it's pointing in that direction, it's closed, meaning that it will retain all the water in the boiler. There's also a little button on the front here that needs to be pressed in, so that now is in the usable position and will retain all the water in the boiler. If it's in the open position, water will just drain from this valve through the floor and onto the open ground underneath. So that's now how it should look. If the temperature reaches 6 degrees or below, this will automatically drop all the water out of the boiler if the boiler isn't switched on. So it'll carry on working, obviously in sub-zero conditions, if the boiler is switched on. If not, then you'll come to it and it'll look like that. You need to reset it and then start again. This little valve here is in the open position now, and that is to drain down all the rest of the water that is in the pipe work and associated plumbing from the tank and all your taps inside, etc. That's open, that's closed. So to make this motorhome work and keep the water within it, that must look like that, that must look like that. That button has to be pressed in there, and that wheel has to be turned all the way around. I'm going to drain that down because it may freeze tonight. Okay. Alright, so that's that locker dealt with. Next to that we've got the gas locker. Straightforward enough. I know the customer for this motorhome is a seasoned motorhome user, although he's not had one for a while. 2 gas bottles in there. In the garage there's a flexible hose that is attached onto this pressure regulator here, but we'll deal with that for the customer when they arrive. As I said, they're a seasoned motorhome user, so I might just be going a bit fast here, but I'm sure they'll understand. Underneath here we have the wastewater tank, and that's dealt with by opening this valve here, for which there is a separate handle, which will show the customer when they collect. The wastewater comes out of this pipe here. Okay, so inside there's an indication to tell you how full the waste tank is, equally the fresh tank, so you always know where you are, but that's how that's drained. Next to that we've got the vents for the fridge. So what it does is it draws cool air in there, expels warm air at the top. As I said, this customer's a seasoned motorhomer, so they'll understand that, but that's what they are. They're the vents for the fridge. In here we have the garage, so these are just shocks to prevent the vehicle from rolling when it's parked. We've got the instruction manuals in this book here. As I said, this is still being worked on, this motorhome, so it's not fully prepared yet. We have the winder for the awning, which is this section here. That was the flexible hose I referred to for the gas tank. There's a tool kit, although it doesn't come with a spare wheel. and there's a puncture repair kit which is in this bag here. This is a lit garage and you can switch those on and off. There's 2 of them either side. This model's fitted with a reverse camera, which we're just actually working on to couple up with the head unit for this customer. So that's the reverse camera just there. It needs to be kept clean and free of debris. If it gets wet, it will give a distorted vision, but once it dries off, obviously it'll become clear. You've just got access through to the garage from this side as well. This customer's asked us to fit televisions, and those are they. They're just the boxes for the televisions. I think we've already fitted the TVs. Okay, so moving on around the motorhome, this is where the mains supply comes in. So this is where the cable would go. This is giving you the main supply to the motorhome. So 240 volt in here. This here is 240 volt out. So if you have a mains appliance outside the motorhome, then you can gain access to that charge from this here. You do need an adapter for it, so it's in European layout here. So you'd need the 2-pin to 3-pin adapter that you would use if you were going abroad on your European holidays. That is a 12 volt out socket, so that's where you would get 12 volt out. Next to that we have the toilet compartment. As I said, the customer for this motorhome has used motorhomes before, so they'll be aware of how to use this cassette, but I'll quickly run through it. To get it out, when the cassette is full, this would be full of toilet waste. Lift this handle up, slide the cassette out, draw that nozzle forward, take the cap off the end and pour the waste away. As you're doing so, press this button in here, it lets air in as the liquid is going out and it stops any splashes. Once you've done that and maybe rinsed it out, then it's time to put the chemical in, which breaks down all the solids. To do that, you slide that cover off, open this up, put the chemical into it, and then make sure that's closed again. Slide this forward and it's ready to replace. This has wheels on it, so you can wheel it over to the disposal point, and also an extendable handle. This handle here is telescopic and it extends outwards, so you can wheel it over to the waste disposal point. Okay, above the toilet waste, I was just looking for the key for this. This is a lockable external gas socket. So this is feeding gas to the outside of the motorhome. So if you had a Caddock barbecue or similar, then that's where you would get the supply for the gas. I just haven't got the key on the key ring, but I'll explain that to the customer on the day that they collect. So it's a lockable, I just haven't got the key with me, which I need to find. Okay, so moving on inside the motorhome then, the first thing that we see here is the control panel. So this is the main Burstner control panel. This is switched on via this button here. So that gets you all your lights on, all the 12 volt circuitry, everything working. Okay, there are separate light switches for each individual light, which are here. Okay, and then the external light is also situated there. Your battery condition, whether it be leisure, which this one is here as indicated by the battery in the rear, press that and this row of lights here will indicate what level your charge is. Press that again and you've got your front battery, which is basically your engine battery. Again, it's indicated on this panel of lights. This is your freshwater tank. If you press that, then this row of lights will appear. If you press this one, which is the wastewater tank, then that row of lights will appear. The water pump is switched on via this switch here. So that must be engaged in order to pump water from the freshwater tank around all the plumbing system and eventually out of the tap. So you've got to prime the system. Basically what that means is that you're pushing all the air out of the pipework through the boiler, filling up the boiler with hot water, and then eventually it'll come out of your tap. So the way you do that is you switch on your, fill the water tank, switch on your hot water, so single lever tap, hot water, open this up, wait until you get a pure flow of water coming out of here. You know then that your boiler can be switched on. Don't switch the boiler on without doing that, otherwise you're just heating thin air in the boiler, which can damage the boiler. So to the boiler controls then, they're dealt with on this control panel here. So to switch that on and wake it up, it's a press on this wheel here. The first menu that you get to is the temperature of the motorhome. So enter that menu by pressing the wheel again and then select your desired temperature. Okay, and then once you've selected it, press the wheel again and that'll set to 18 degrees or whichever one you want it to go to. I'm going to switch that off, and then the next one along is water. Okay, so that is heating the water. So again, to go into the menu, we're pressing the button on the center. We've got eco, boost, eco, hot or boost. Boost will take all the power and prioritize the heating of the water from the heating of the motorhome. So if you've got it on boost, it will only heat your water. Hot is 60 degrees, eco is 40 degrees, off is off. Okay, next one along is the fuel that you want to use on the heating of the motorhome. So let's go into that menu. You've got gas only, a mix of gas and electric on 1 kilowatt, a mix of gas and electric on 2 kilowatts, electric only on 1 kilowatt, electric only on 2 kilowatts. The reason for the kilowatt choice is if you're on a low ampage site and you put it on 2 kilowatts and you've got other electrical appliances going, you may blow the fuse on the site. To switch this off, you just give it a press in the center. Let's just work this back up again. So the next one along, you can just vent it. So if you just want no heat but the fan to blow, that's that menu. The next one along is to set your timer, so you can set it to come on at a certain time and off at a certain time. That sets your clock, and then you've got a settings menu as well. I won't go into those now, I'm just basically showing you how to switch the heating and water heating on and off. Okay, those are those settings. So this model is an A-Class. It has an A-Class bed which drops down above this section here. To get those seats to drop, you must have these seats in a dropped position in order to get this A-Class bed to go down. And to do that, it's these handles on here. So you give those quarter of a turn and it'll allow you to fold the seats flat. To get these captain seats to turn around, it's that lever there, and then push the seat around and it'll allow you to turn the seat. They pivot the seat front and back, so it pivots in that way. So I'll drop the seats down, I'll show you how to use the bed. Okay, so that's the seats dropped down. In order to use the bed, they must look like that. There's a key required, which is this key here, looks like that. It goes into this key hole here. Turn it that way, like so. And then you're pressing these buttons here. So this is an electrically controlled bed, and that will allow you to rise and fall the bed. Okay, so you're keeping your finger on that and it'll go, obviously go all the way down. To come back up, you just press the button there. Those little domes there are charge points for the little lights that you get. They're like little candle lights, which we'll come to in a second, but if you're wondering what they are, that's what they are. And we've got light switches in here as well. Pressing the button to go back up then. Okay, so as I say, we fitted a television for the customer. This pivots, so that handle that comes out the side there will allow you to swivel this TV around to its correct sort of landscape position. Those are the little candle lights that I talked about. They will go onto those charging points, and there's various places where they fit, and they're magnetic. You can see they've got little charging points on them just there, and they're the candle lights. So you switch them on with the button on the front there, and the branded Burstner, so they're nice. Okay, fridge, and I am just showing you the basic controls here and how to use things, because the rest of the stuff is, as I say, this is a seasoned motorhome owner. So to switch the fridge on, okay, it's a three-way fridge. You can run it on gas. I don't know whether you can see this or not, but let me see if I can get you through the menus. So it'll run on gas, it'll run on 12 volts, so that will work when the engine's running. it will also work on mains electric. So if we were plugged in, that would run perfectly efficiently. On 12 volt, it will only sort of keep it cool. You need to get it cold on electric or gas first. The other position, and to get into these menus, you just give a long press on this here. Okay, and then okay, so you can have A, which is auto. It will automatically select the most relevant power source to the situation that you're in. So it'll try and find electric first, then gas. If it can't find either of those, it's looking for 12 volt. But if it finds 12 volt, it won't try and find the gas or the electric. You can see that it's faulted here because we don't have any mains coming in and we haven't got any gas on. So that red button means we've gone to a fault code. So I'm going to switch it off by giving it a long press on there and go back in. Okay, you've got a temperature selection on this. Okay, so it'll allow you to select your temperature. The reason for that is if it's really cold outside, you don't want this on full. If it's really hot outside, you want the fridge to work harder. It'll freeze up if you put it on full in really cold ambient conditions. So if it's really cold outside, don't put it on full because you'll just ice the fridge up. All right, so to switch that off, it's just a long press again on there. To leave the fridge slightly ajar when you're not using it, it's this little catch here. Okay, so just pull that out and locate that onto this, and it leaves the fridge slightly ajar so that it can breathe, and then you don't get the fridge giving off a smell if it's been left sealed for any length of time. Okay, this model, you've got the toilet. Okay, so that's the flush for the toilet, that blue button. That will come on when the cassette needs emptying and is full. It's a spin around seat. So to use the toilet, you lift the lid, slide this across, and it opens and closes the valve there. Okay, so open the valve up, use the toilet, use the flush, close it back up so that you don't, when you're traveling, you don't get out all the liquid swooshing around in the bottom, which could make a mess. Okay, and that's how you use the toilet. This has got a slide across sink section which protects the toilet from the shower when the shower's being used, and to do that, you press this up, slide this across. Okay, and that then reveals a separate shower. Okay, so moving on to the bedroom area. It's got a sliding door. To release that, you press that little catch up there. Don't try and force it without that catch up. To gain access to the beds here, you have these steps. This step is retractable, and to retract the step, you press that little catch in there, and it pushes this step back. You've got to have the step in to gain access to the wardrobes, which are on either side here. This has got a middle section. You can pull that section out to make a slightly bigger bed, or push it that way to just reveal two completely separate beds at the back. Again, we fitted a television for the customer, which is that one there. I think that covers all the main points. There will be a main circuit breaker, which I'll just find for you now. Okay, just one noteworthy thing. I found the keys for the external gas thing outside, so I'll just show you that. So that's the gas barbecue point. Okay, so it's that key, that kind of key, which is notched on either side. And that goes into there. And that reveals it's a bayonet style fitting, so you need an adapter that goes into there, and then the tube comes off and goes on to your gas appliance. So they're the keys for that. Okay, so the main circuit breaker, I'm back in the bedroom area here, is in the wardrobe at the back here. So there you can see a bank of switches. It's like your main circuit breaker that you'd expect to see at home. If the so it's like a fuse. If there's a problem with any of the main circuitry, then one of these will trip down into the low position, like so. You can test that you've got a main supply coming into the motorhome by pressing that blue button there, and then if you press that and you've got a main supply coming in, this will trip down like so. These slide out for hanging space. So I think I've covered all the main points there. This electric bed at the front, if the battery goes flat or there's a problem with the motor or one of the fuses, etc., You can override it manually. There's a winder which will go into this here, pushes into that. It's like a long Allen key, and that will allow you to wind the bed up manually without the need for the motor. Okay, so that completes the handover. I think I've covered all the main points there. It was a bit of a whistle-stop handover process there, but any questions, I'm happy to answer those on the day that you collect, and I really look forward to seeing you when you pick up your lovely new motorhome.